Boy, oh boy, oh boy, it's been another goddamn month. Well, almost. As per usual, I film half of this first, and then I film the other half. It's the 22nd I'm filming this on, so, what the hell did I click on? Reviews. I can do that? Oh my god, what the crap? I didn't realize there were 4 different tabs on, on Letterboxd. What the... Okay. Anyway, these are based on, the Meg 2, I forgot to watch that. Is that still out in cinemas? There have been so many movies out, and I've been so busy, I haven't been able to watch the movies I wanted to watch. But then, as I have watched some of the movies I wanted to watch, and most of the ones I have watched have either been fantastic, but I've watched it for the third time, or they've been absolute shit. And it's like, but they've been really cheap. It's been a very weird couple of weeks. So let's kind of just dive into it. Firstly, I want to mention Futurama. I am still watching it. I forgot to watch it last week, but me and my brother double featured it yesterday. It's fine. Like, I don't dislike it. The first episode I didn't like. The second episode I liked. The third episode I thought was okay. It was the Dune episode. It was one of those, yeah, it kind of isn't as fun when Rick and Morty used to do this, and it used to be more fun when Rick and Morty did it, with their obvious, we're doing this as like homage to a movie or TV show that's currently popular, and this one's just Dune, but it's like, it's obviously on the nose. It's Futurama. Yeah, I don't know. I got kind of tired of it. I thought they were going to kill off Nibbler. They didn't. And then I thought they were going to kill off Zoidberg. I think they did. He got stepped on. I think it was just a joke because he never comes back. He's not in the next one. I'm pretty sure he's not in the fourth episode. I can't remember. They don't really touch on it. Either way, I watched the fourth episode. I like the fourth episode. It's probably my second favorite of the season so far. I mean, come on. The first episode was crap. The second episode is a Kif and Amy episode. Love it. Remember how this show was fun 15, 20 years ago? Yeah, we're back to doing that again. The third episode was a pop culture reference episode, and the fourth one was commentary on Amazon. Ha 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 ha. Because remember, Mom is also like Apple, and now she's also Amazon. I don't know, I thought it was cute. Had some good jokes in it, great one-liners. Anyway, what did I watch? I watched a lot of Disney, so let's kind of just jump. Dumbo, gave it 3 stars, thought it was fun. Obviously, racial stereotypes, not great. There's some very dated things. At the same time, it's like, no leeway, but it's one of those, can you give it the benefit of the doubt because it's a 1940s movie? I don't know, kind of. I mean, there's still, like, I think if the guys who worked at the circus weren't singing about how much they loved being basically slaves for this circus, maybe it would have been okay, because it's like, sure, it makes sense that historically probably there were slaves that worked at circuses, it kind of makes sense. But yeah, the song, not a great idea. And then the racial stereotype of the crows, well, at least they were fun characters. Sure, stereotypes, but I don't know, they got the guy that goddamn fly, so let's be honest, not the worst thing in the world, but not the best either. It's one of those up in the air situations. But I thought the film was fine. I love the pink elephants part, that was great. The rest of it was kind of dull. I still gave it a like, but mostly because of the pink elephants. That whole sequence, the last 10 minutes of this movie, a slap. Again, that also includes the racist crows, but at the same time, nothing I can do about it. The film exists. I'm not bloody, what's his name? Walt Disney, who has multiple other problems that I'm aware of. Sleeping Beauty was the next one I watched, was a 1959 film. I gave this one 4 stars. I would have given it the masterpiece treatment that it probably deserves, but unfortunately, narrative-wise, it doesn't really have it. It has probably my favourite animation style that they've used at Disney, classic animation, at least currently, that I've watched. Looks tremendous. So much so I went out to make sure I got the Platinum Edition as well, just so I could have it. I gave it 4 stars. Again, would have loved to have given it 5, but the pacing was a bit off, very off. The main characters weren't even Sleeping Beauty or whoever, what's her name again? Ariel or something? Aurora. It's Aurora, isn't it? It's goddamn Aurora, isn't it? It's fucking Aurora. Who cares named their kid Aurora? Bunch of bastards. And also Prince Philip. Oh no. Anyway, they didn't have much characters to them. It was fine what they did, but they had no agency at all in this movie because it was just the fairies doing their own shit. Even when they told the prince at the end when he's going to fight the dragon, they're like, we won't help you anymore, you'll be fine, if you've got the skill you can do this. And then 2 seconds later they save him from getting killed, and then getting killed again, and then killed again, and then when he's going to fight the dragon, they do magic on his sword and it stabs the dragon. So honestly, what the crap. Maleficent was great. So great colors, great texture, just not a great story and not great characters. But I mean, the fairies were fine, but they're not the main. But they are the main characters, but they're not the main characters. It's a thing. I don't know. Again, the animation's stunning. I'd suggest it just for the animation alone. I then, on the Criterion channel, I watched Dog Day Afternoon. I gave it 4.5 stars. Probably a 5-star movie. Let's be honest, kind of hard to rate a masterpiece sometimes. I don't know. It's one of those things of it set up a structure and style of film that I've seen so many times replicated for TV shows and other procedural dramas, you know, when it comes to this kind of topic. It has its own stuff that I find really interesting, like the queer discussion and stuff like that, which is really unique for it at the time, 1975 of all times to talk about that. But, you know, fantastic acting, great directing, tense, tremendous film. Probably a 5-star film, let's be honest. But, yeah, I don't know, one of those hard ones for me to pick out as to what exactly do I dislike, I guess. I don't know. It just felt a bit weird at times, but I think it's just also because I feel like I've seen it before because it's become the norm for this kind of narrative structure. But I followed up with Mean Streets, the Scorsese picture, which I hadn't seen yet, and I hadn't seen either of these, of course, and yeah, of course, they've now announced their 4K UHD on Criterion. Second Sight's announced their 4K UHD, which is great. I don't know which one I'll get, which sucks because I just got After Hours on 4K from Criterion, so I'll probably get the Criterion. I don't know. I really don't know, because Second Sight always banging out the park. It might be a hell of a double dip. But yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars. I didn't love it. I thought it was good. You know, it's clearly this feels like Scorsese with his style, and even my mate who's watching all of his films said that, yeah, you watch these first 2 films and they're crap, but then you watch Mean Street and she's like, oh wow, this guy can do stuff. This guy's got some skill, you know, as a director, as a writer. And it's like, yeah, it's good. Like, I thought it was good. I'd probably like it more on rewatch, but, you know, it's still very, you know, 70s, very, very Scorsese. Nevertheless, I also followed it up with The Haunted House, which is a short, 20-minute long short, a Buster Keaton short from 1921. It's cute. It's one of those, the first 10 minutes is a bank thing, and the second 10 minutes is a haunted house thing. That's basically the gist of it, like a 2-reel 10-minute long thing, but it's an overall story. It's fine. I liked it. I don't give short star ratings most of the time. I usually just give them likes, or I don't give them likes. I want to start not giving films star ratings, probably as of next year, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, fun. I'd suggest it on Criterion Channel. And I basically a triple feature on the 3rd and then one on the 4th. I have my Eureka Masters of Cinema 4K release, or 4K remastered release of Sherlock Jr., The General, and Steamboat Bill Jr. I watched Sherlock Jr., I gave it 4.5 stars. What, did I have anything good to say about it? It's one of those, if the first 20 or so minutes weren't kind of boring, the rest of it outshines it so much so. Like, basically in the second half of the film, because I still like the narrative, it's nice, but then it just becomes, he dreams that he's in this movie and all this stuff, and he's Sherlock Holmes Jr., and there's all this stuff to it that's, in terms of comedy, in terms of physical effects, insane stuff, and it is wonderful to watch. I think it is probably he's the most fun in terms of his practical stuff. That's probably why this is a 3-pack set, because of course I followed up with The General, which I didn't watch it on the Blu-ray. I actually watched the opening special feature that it had from Orson Welles introducing it. Obviously 5 stars for the General. I noted this is the 4th film this year I've seen that has a train crash in it, all of which have basically been practical and all miniatures. One was a miniature, Back to the Future 3, practical for Bridge on the River Kwai, probably CGI, if not practical as well for Mission Impossible. This one was obviously practical as well. I watched it the same night that the guy who composed the score for the Blu-ray release died. Like, the next morning, basically. And I had already watched it, but I watched it on YouTube, which had the 4K scan, but it had a different score, which, who did I say? This time I watched the film via YouTube with a synced score by Joe Hisashi. So that's really good. If you want to watch the film on YouTube for free, watch that version. It's great. Got the 4K remaster and everything. Wonderful film. Probably easily his masterpiece. It's not as big on the constant like practical jokes or practical effects, but it's mostly the whole adventure that kind of sells you on it. Especially because once he's on the train, it's like, oh shit, he's on it's all just he's on a train. Like, it's got some wonderful stuff to it. I have seen this before. It's still a masterpiece. The fact that I hadn't seen it since, because had the Kino release, my dad had gotten that a few years back, but I followed it up with Steamboat Bill Jr. Not great. I gave it 3.5 stars, mostly because the first half of the film kind of sucked. Like, I did not give a shit for this guy being on a boat, and then look, he's screwing around. Look, oh wow, he's tripping off the boat because the boat doesn't have rails because it's got ropes. I'm like, this guy's an idiot. You know, I guess it's meant to be funny, but it didn't really work as much for me. The story, the romance, he obviously clearly wanted to have a story in it, much like the General, but then he clearly realized that he didn't have enough great, like, practical effects stuff, and so the last 10 minutes of this, like, to be fair, I kind of like the second half of this film quite a bit. It's amusing, and there's a prison break that's quite fun, but the last 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes of this, how long? 70-minute long film is tremendous. That by itself, I would give 5 stars, because it's, if you know, or if you don't know, basically, he got bored of doing the boat stuff because he's like, this sucks, let's do something fun, and just made the whole entire set into a hurricane. So it's just a big gust of wind blowing through the whole entire set. Buildings are getting knocked down and torn apart. They're falling on him. The infamous shot of him standing still on the building top, falling flat on his face. But then because of the window, he survives and walks it off like it was nothing. And then, like, 2 minutes later, a whole entire house just falls on him. Like, there are so many great things in it. It just sucks that the rest of the film's such a snooze. The second half drops the dull gags of, let's try on 100 hats, and wow, boats are the opposite of trains, aren't they? And instead it adopts this ramped engine of chaos and eventually utter destruction. So yeah, Carl Davis was the guy who did the score. He did the score for this one as well. Yeah, he literally had just died overnight, and my mate who had suggested watching the Japanese guy's score added into the film on YouTube instead even said, oh my god, this is your fault, you killed him. So that was just funny. On the 5th, I was bored, so I watched Vampires Suck with my mum. I hadn't seen it. It was on Disney Plus. Wow, can't believe it was on Disney Plus. I gave it 3 stars. It's one of those weird films that's very much like, you know, the rest of the films that these people have done with their, like, epic movie and whatever, which I used to love as a kid. That stuff it's terrible. It's absolutely a disgrace on cinema. But Vampires Suck was pretty fun. I just literally had just watched someone recap the first 3 Twilight films because it's just someone I'm subscribed to talking about them. I'm like, sure, I'll watch someone else talk about the goddamn Twilight films. Stuff that I haven't even seen the third one. I've seen the first 2 and like the last 2. I have never seen the third movie, so I still have no idea what happens in it. But Vampires Suck basically covers the first 3 movies, and I thought it was pretty fun. It had some good gags, some very dated gags, very 2010s gags. But it had some great slapstick, some great exaggerated antics and sexual tension between Becca and Edward. The dad was good, the Jacob was great. There's still a lot of it that works well. There's a lot of vampire and teen parody stuff that's like, oh look, it's this person, and they really have to say, I'm Buffy the Vampire Slayer, stab, you know. Stuff where the joke is literally just told to you, instead of it being like a subtle thing of like a blonde girl with a steak like goes to kill Edwards, and then it's like, oh, and Bill's like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then instead of just walking away and being like, oh, it's meant to be Buffy, I get the joke because vampires and teenagers. Instead, she's like got a shirt that's like says Buffy on it or whatever. It's just dumb jokes like that. Anyway, on the 6th, I rewatched Barbie. I watched it with Lachlan. I even said I can't believe this toy ad is actually an ad for a car brand I don't even recognize. I gave it 4.5 stars this time. I really, really liked it on rewatch. I still liked it the first time, but then I really, really liked it on my second watch, which was made me happy enough to release my video that I talked about. Which I found really interesting because I mentioned how in the video there's a big monologue in the film, and I wasn't really, like, I got the idea, like, what they were saying immediately, so I was like, I don't really need to listen to this in a way. Like, I don't need this because I don't personally, but other people do. But then I actually listened to it, like, was like, I should actually hear what she's saying. Like, when I watched the film the second time, I'm like, oh, this is actually a really good speech. So, yeah, weird of me to just kind of disservice it in a way, even though not in a fuck you feminism, but more of a, no, I get it, I just don't need this. But I really appreciate it on the second viewing. On the 7th, I watched Lady and the Tramp, gave it 3 stars. I don't know if I'd prefer this or Dumbo. Maybe this, I don't know, they're both kind of, they're fine. Like, I still gave them likes. I've definitely seen this one before, I even pinned it down as a rewatch. But as Syndrome would say, the dog got busy. So, yeah, it's fine. The animations are nice. The fact that they give the dog so much coffee in the morning is crazy. Obviously, sad news on the 8th, we found out, of course, that William Friedkin had passed away. I literally had watched The Exorcist a couple of weeks ago. I had watched Cruising for the first time a couple of months ago. I ordered Sorcerer on Blu-ray because I hadn't seen it before and I wanted to get it. I've also ordered Blue Chips, so yeah, I don't know when that'll come in. But I watched The French Connection because I figured, well, it's about time I watched that signature release Blu-ray edition that I made a whole video talking about. So I watched that, and obviously it looks great. Yeah, no, that guy definitely says the M-word. Holy shit. Fantastic film. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's an interesting style, so like, I can, like, watching it the first time a few years back, I didn't really get it, but then of course you get the great car chase and everything, I kind of understood it, but this time I'm like, I get this. This is the score. Everything's perfect. Just the film isn't completely perfect. I don't know, 4.5 stars, maybe 5 stars, I don't know, who cares. But I did follow it up with Anatomy of a Chase, which is, I basically watched all the special features that were on that disc, except for any of the commentaries, and I didn't watch the documentary, but I did watch Anatomy of a Chase, a couple of the interviews. Yeah, but this was like watching Frankenstein explain how he made the monster after its rampage. So that was cute. And then on the 9th, I watched The French Connection 2, well, French Connection 2, not the, but just French Connection 2. Yeah, it was fine. I gave it 3.5 stars. It definitely, because it's not a Friedkin film. It's like, was it John Frankenheimer or whatever? Yes. It's not as I didn't think it was as compelling or stylish as the first film, because it definitely is not that documentary approach that the first one has. But I still really liked it. It has a great final, like, the final minute of this film is really great, and I had to actually rewind and rewatch it all just to kind of live it again, because I'm like, that was like, just happened, and I'm like, I need to rewatch this again. So, yeah, it is basically just like a 2-hour epilogue to the first film, though, so take it as you will. I still think it's really good. I'd probably give it a high rating next time I watched it, but yeah, still worth watching after the second one. It doesn't ruin the second one, which is good as well, but I think Roy Schneider not being in it definitely is a bit of a miss. On the 10th, I watched The Jungle Book, the 1967 version. I gave it 4.5 stars. I love this film. I know a lot of people criticize it for not having a story, but I'm like, who gives a shit? Like, imagine you're a child, and you watch this film, and you're like, I want to be that kid who's just walking around the jungle, hanging out with animals, and singing and dancing and having fun. I would have loved to have done that. That's like a dream, you know, and I love the film, I love the music, I love the animation, it's wonderful. 4.5 stars. Perfect. Almost perfect film. Then on the 11th, me and Helene watched Asteroid City, because she actually wanted to watch it, which is interesting. But I've been waiting so long, because it came out months ago in the US, and it finally came out on the 10th. So I watched it on the 11th at the Nova, and they had the whole Asteroid City setup, which was really cute. I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. It's not my favourite of Wes Anderson's films, but he always has a thing where when I watch his films, and I'm like sitting there for 2 hours glued to the screen, and then I get up and I leave, and suddenly I'm like, I wish my life was more whimsical in a way. I see things a bit differently, and everything kind of has this great effect. Like when you're high, and like you get that great effect, and it just wears off. And you're just like, oh right, I'm still living in this shitty fucking world. I'm not living in this AI. I'm living in a world of AI-generated Wes Anderson crap and fucking TikToks. Oy vey. But still. Good flick. Very amusing. Fun to watch. Good stuff. On the 12th, I did not expect this would happen, but I watched Barbie for a 3rd time. Guy hadn't seen it. He wanted to watch a movie after we filmed games, so we met up and just went to the Lido in Hawthorne and watched it. I still loved it. The first 20 minutes were a struggle because we had 3 teenagers in front of us talking literally the whole time and on their phone, and even me kicking their chair didn't do anything until I leant forward and like you could hear people shushing and they like, well, it's as if they're giggling to themselves, like, I wonder who they're shushing. And I leant down and was like, hey, can you guys shut the fuck up? Some people here were trying to watch a movie, because clearly there were people there, including my mate guy, who had not seen the movie yet. So they felt really embarrassed. They didn't even apologize. They just got up and went to the very front of the cinema. So I could still see them and hear them whispering a few times, but I was able to enjoy the rest of the movie after that. It pissed me off, but it made me really frustrated. Like, my heartbeat was leveled. But yeah, it is what it is. It just sucks. It's just one of those things of like, why are you going to a movie cinema that's full of people and just sitting there in the front row talking? If you don't want to see the movie, go away, you know? Like, just fucking leave. I don't understand that. So, I don't know, maybe I'll make a rant video about it. I kind of wanted to, but I was like, no, it's too tired to rant. Anyway, on the 13th, I watched Bambi. I hadn't seen Bambi yet, so I watched Bambi. It was not at all what I expected. People kept saying, oh, it's about Bambi, his mother dies. I thought Bambi was a girl, but his mother dies, like, at the start of the film, and it's about him trying to find his father. It fucking ain't. Mother dies halfway throughout the movie. Yeah, and then the mother dies 2 seconds later, bam, it's springtime and everyone's boning each other. So, tonally, a bit of a whiplash there, so I can't exactly understand people being like, oh my god, Bambi's mother, where? It's like, sure, I guess. I don't have empathy or something? I don't fucking know. Either way, it didn't really affect me that much, but I gave it 5 stars. I know, I gave the film 5. This is my only perfect Disney film so far. It's just everything about it was perfect. The style, the structure, the characters, the animation, the cutesiness, the lovability, the heartbreak. Everything about it was impeccable. Yeah, and it's also really short. I don't know, I absolutely loved it. I would definitely recommend it. Yeah, Bambi's mother dies. Hey kids, you'll want to watch some birds go fuckity fuck. Anyway, yeah, so it's just good. It's probably what I pin as the best Disney film that I've ever seen. So I know that says so much, doesn't it? Still. On the 14th, I watched The Catman of Paris. It was an hour long. It was really easy to watch. I had an hour to kill. It was there. I gave it 2.5 stars. It's not a great film. The imprint release is interesting. It definitely had some great special features. I'm still yet to watch the documentary, but I've got it over there waiting for me, basically. Yeah, it's one of those 4K scans where they've clearly made it a 4K scan, but they haven't cleaned any of it at all, so it's got a lot of scratches and dirt. It's still got the cigarette burn, so when the reel changes, you can see the quality downgrade and then come back up again. It's like, yeah, it's like watching an actual film. I was scared it was going to just burn out on me at one stage. So, but no, it still looks good, except for the fact of all the dirt and stuff. It sounds good, though. It's not a very interesting film. It's fine. The twist is interesting, I guess. But yeah, it's just one of those interesting horror films, but not really a horror film because it's more of a kind of Western. I don't know. It's obviously directed by a guy who did a bunch of Westerns for the studio. I knew all of that stuff going into it. So then when they had all these action set pieces where it's like, oh, they're going to fight in the bar, and it's a whole brawl and everything. And then there's a stagecoach chase, and the guy's just constantly firing his gun right next to the head of the guy who's driving. I'm like, this is very impractical, but like the crash was insane. There's a lot of great stuff like that. The rest of the film's just talking, but like the dull kind of talking where it's just the same shit over and over and over again. Yeah, but I will be honest, it does have some great stunt work, so there you go, some benefits there. Then my brother and I watched the IT Crowd, The Internet Is Coming. It is not a movie, it's a special. It was the finale of the IT Crowd that we all grew up with watching. It's fine. I give it 3.5 stars. For me, it's far from a masterpiece. It's one of those, you can see how the show has kind of aged to a point where, like, cause like my brother had rewatched the whole entire show, and like we were watching parts of season 3 and 4 while I was doing up the shelf. And it's like, I still really love the show. I think the first 2 seasons are its best. The 3rd and 4th are still really good, but I probably wouldn't rewatch them as often. But I still really like rewatching them. The Internet Is Coming is one of those, weirdly, a commentary on cancel culture, which is interesting because the creator of it was like, cancel out. He got a fair blow of the cancel culture because I think he's like a transphobe or one of those things, you know, he doesn't like the snowflake generation, all that bullshit. Either way, yeah, so I said cute if not an all too brief finale. The show remains funny even if some jokes have soured over time. A lot of dated jokes like the anonymous joke, oh, it's anonymous, I thought I was an anonymous, and then it's anonymous is just a kid with a mask on. I'm like, oh, because it's funny because it's just kids on the internet. I'm like, yeah, that joke was probably great in 2013, but I don't even think it was great in 2013. So yeah, but for me, it's the characters and the performances, and that's the comedy that I love. It's very, very like it's nicely quotable too. Like it's great seeing shit. What's his name? Matt Berry. Every time Matt Berry's in it, it's great. There is a slightly transphobic joke, because his whole thing is that he gets confidence from wearing women's slacks, and he says, "And it doesn't make me a transsexual," or some shit like that. And it's like a transvestite, I think he said. It's like, I mean, sure, but he's also he's that sexist prick character, which is meant to be the joke because he's also dumb as crap, which is very funny in the last episode of the season of the fourth season. But he's not as great in this one. But at the same time, he does have some great secret millionaire things, so there are some perks. And then I watched May from the second site release, which I thought was great. Gave it 4 stars. Good release, good transfer, great special features. I went for a couple of them, which was great. I actually rewatched it immediately after whilst doing up the shelf, with the audio commentary with Alexandra Helen-Nicholas, which I thought was kind of bad. Weirdly, I was hoping it to be great, and she even says, like, oh, I've been wanting to do this for years, it's in my top 10. I'm like, great, good. Give me some interesting insight. And she gave me like 5-10 minutes of good insight. The rest of it was just stuff that wasn't interesting and was really awkwardly put together, like clearly no editing or anything, no scripting. I'm like, if this was like one of my favorite films and I'd be doing a commentary, I would script some shit, because like this needs something. Like she starts by talking about the end of the film, and which is fine, I guess, but like a lot of it just doesn't work. A lot of what she talks about is she keeps repeating herself constantly for like 5 straight minutes while my mum was like putting together clothes on the line. She was just repeating herself, and even mum was like, get the fuck on with it, we get it. So not her best commentary track. It still has some good insight, but like some good thematic stuff that I liked that she talked about. Some stuff with the characters, especially with like May being a like interesting like allegory for autism and stuff. But then she said she didn't like the movie Amelie, which she pronounces Emily, and I'm like, no thank you. So very off and ended. Not a great commentary, so I wouldn't really recommend it. Probably just watch the main commentary track for the director. But then I followed it up with Lake Mungo. Fuck me, that was scary. 4.5 stars, masterpiece of a horror. Yeah, I'm still scared by that one image. If you've seen the film, you know, I'm not going to spoil it, but goddamn. I also watched Ultraviolet, gave it 1 star, thought it was kind of awful. Rubbish, even, dare I say. But I got the Blu-ray, and honestly, I'd probably watch it again. I just didn't like it. But I was also like kind of blown away by how insane the movie was the whole time I was watching it. The rooftop part with her being surrounded by a bunch of guys, that part I really liked stylistically. The rest of it was just kind of weird and boring, but also dumb, but also stupid, but also, it's a weird thing. And last but not least, as of present, I watched The Last Voyage of the Demeter. I gave it 2 stars. I watched it with my dad and my girlfriend. It was $11 tickets, and it only came out a week beforehand. It was one of those, some decent ideas, but overall poor execution. It could have been a lot better. I could have come up with an easily, substantially better idea for a film. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. Watch it on Netflix if you're really interested. I would not recommend it in cinemas. Even though the audience was fine, it's just not a great film. It's 2 hours long. It is kind of a bore. It's a lot of a bore. It has some great creature effects when it's practical, and then it becomes CG, and it's like, it's okay, I guess. But yeah, there were some interesting ideas, but for the most part, it just didn't really wow me. Didn't wow any of us. Even my girlfriend got bored. My dad was even like, there was so much like, it broke Dracula lore because it's based on the book, but then it doesn't do this. Like the whole Dracula's meant to be human, and, like a vampire but drinks blood to be human. But in this, he's just becomes more of a bat by the end of the movie instead of becoming more human, which doesn't make any sense. It's a thing. Anyway, we'll see what else I watch the rest of the month. So on the 23rd, I watched Sorcerer. I gave it 5 stars. I got the Blu-ray in. I watched the Sorcerer's A Conversation with William Friedkin and Nicholas Winding Refn right after, because that was an hour and a bit as well. So I figured, why not? I had the time. I wanted to do some more to the shelf. And Sorcerer was really good. I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I found the conversation between the pair and Sorcerers to be very, very funny. I'd definitely say it's worth checking out if you've seen what Blu-ray edition I got. It's like the 40th anniversary edition. It's titled that, but it's like, even most people agree, it's like, it's not really a 40th anniversary. There's no commentary, there's no extra featurettes, it's just a documentary. It's not even a documentary, it's just an interview between the two. So yeah, either way, good Blu-ray, good release. Simply just the 2 features, but I'd definitely check them out if I were you. On the 24th, I watched Futurama, The Beast of a Billion Backs. Watched it with my brother because, I don't know, we've been watching the new season and he wanted to watch it, thinking that it was the first movie. He was wrong, because it starts obviously with the previously on, and it shows the crack in space and time or whatever, and he's like, oh, what came before this? I'm like, Bender's Big Score. And he's like, oh, what came before that? I'm like, the show. And he's like, okay, what came after this? And I just had to detail all of the canon of the show. Either way, that was fun to watch. We had to watch it episodically on Disney Plus because we have the DVDs, but I figured, oh, it's on Disney Plus in HD, you know, I might as well just watch it on that. And my brother didn't realize that they had published it, you know, on TV as episodics. So every DVD film is in a catalogue of like 4 to 5 episodes, which is quite funny, but also kind of annoying, but also fine, I guess. So yeah, it sucks that Disney Plus doesn't have a feature where you can watch it all in one go, but at the same time it just plays episode after episode after episode. So, and it counts it as a season. But it also counts like half of like season 4 is one season and the other half is another season, so it's saying that the movies are season 6, which they're technically season 5. So it's wrong. I don't know how they screwed that up. It's really annoying. So, yeah, I don't care. I have the DVDs, but still, you know. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was a fun rewatch. On the 25th, I did a crazy-ass double feature. I watched RoboCop on 4K. This is the Arrow video release. I've seen the director's cut like twice now on the Blu-ray release that they had released a few years back. I did not realize I have not logged in on Letterboxd, which I find very, very weird, because I'm pretty sure I watched it 2 or 3 years ago. I'm pretty sure, I know I watched it I think I watched it at the Astor one time, and I watched the Blu-ray one time, but I might have watched the Blu-ray and then a year or 2 later watched it at the Astor, because I remember watching it with a friend. I think it was in a double feature of something else. It was like Terminator and RoboCop or something like that, and but yeah, that was 2017, so pre-Letterboxd days for me. So I'm pretty sure I saw it in the Astor. I forgot that I did, but until now. So hey, that's pretty cool. But the 4K was still fantastic. It's a really good Arrow video release. I got the limited edition version because I hadn't gotten the prior Blu-ray release from them. I just got the standard JB Hi-Fi one. So yeah, it is what it is. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's probably a 5-star masterpiece. I don't know. It's getting hard to give 5-star movies 5 stars anymore, because it's I don't really know what quantifies it nowadays, he says, after having given Sorcerer 5 stars. I don't know, it just is what it is. Either way, I think it's just something in the mood of the film doesn't really click with me all the time. It just kind of lags a little, but that's alright. Just a pacing issue, maybe. Even though it's really tight. I don't know, I don't get it. It doesn't matter. I watched Wages of Fear right after, which is a 2.5 hour long black and white 4x3 French film. It's got French and English, I think in another language as well, Portuguese or something. Either way, obviously, Sorcerer is based on the book, or at least an adaptation of the book, The Wages of Fear. This film is also obviously a adaptation of the book, The Wages of Fear. There is no correlation between the two films, since Friedkin hadn't seen the original film when he made his film. He had read the book, and knowing that there was an adaptation, he was like, I want to do my own thing and whatever. And they're very, very different, but also very, very the same. I gave this one 4.5 stars. It's probably more of a 5-star film, but it's got some dated stuff to do with narrative stuff. I don't care for the romance that's in the film. The ending was still fantastic. The whole last 45 minutes is still similar to Friedkin's film, but very, very different at the same time. The rest of it is kind of the same, but again, Friedkin goes for this This is Hell on Earth version where they're in a rainforest. It's absolute crap. It's terrifying, and all these practical stunts which are insane. And then you contrast that to the 50s version, which is still very practical, obviously. It's just, there feels like a little bit of limitations in what they do. There's also like, the characters they're not assholes, they're not bad people, they're just in a bad place geographically. They're like in the middle of the desert, so it's like geographically it's a different location, but it's the same premise of four guys in two different trucks have to deliver nitroglycerin to a oil spill that's blowing up. So yeah, it's good. I would suggest both of them. Yeah, definitely suggest both of them. But my favorite one would definitely still be Sorcerer. I just like its style more. I like how it approaches its characters. Then on the 26th, I did a double feature of The Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. I gave Bride of Frankenstein 5 stars. It's an undisputed masterpiece. And Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, I gave 2.5 stars. I don't mind it, but again, having now watched it 3 times in a row, I feel like I'm having deja vu talking about this again, but I realised I had talked about it in my upcoming this weekend. Yeah, that comes out next week because it was a book launch event. You'll see in that video if you watch it, the book that I talk about. But it was great. Helene was there, Phil and Katie were there, Rodney was there, who spotted me out in the crowd and sat next to me. I have no idea how the hell you can do that, Rod. It was great seeing everyone again. I picked up a film there as well. It was a wonderful night. Bride of Frankenstein, 5-star masterpiece. Absolutely loved it. Frankenstein Mr. Wolfman is fine. It's, again, 2.5 stars. I don't really care that much for it. I think it's fine. The only interesting aspect about it is the fact that it's a direct sequel to The Wolfman. Like, it's not a direct sequel to Frankenstein or Bride of Frankenstein. It's like the 5th or 6th film. You've had Ghost of Frankenstein and the Son of Frankenstein, and now you've got Frankenstein Mr. Wolfman. It's like, it's not very interesting by the time you get to the 5th Frankenstein movie, but only half of it, or technically like the last half an hour, it's not a very long film. Half of the movie is a Frankenstein film, but the rest of it's a Wolfman stuff, and it's mostly Wolfman anyway. Just the Frankenstein monster just kind of shows up. Yeah, but it's a good Wolfman film to a degree. Yeah, because I mean, Lon Chaney's great in it, but most of the stuff that he talks about in this film, how he wants to die, all this kind of stuff, is the punchline of a Abbott and Costello film later on. So it's like, I kind of prefer watching that because at least it's funny. This is just depressing. So yeah, still good to watch on the big screen though. That was really nice. And then on the 28th, which I think was a Monday, I can't remember already, even though it's currently the 31st and I'm filming this. Yes, on Monday, I watched Career Opportunities because I got the Jennifer Connelly set, which you will see in the following this weekend. The imprint set, it's a very good set, and I really liked not much of the film. The film's transfer was great. It sounded fine. It just wasn't a very interesting film. I gave it 2.5 stars. I'm like, it's fine. It's a very passable, 80-odd minutes. It's not even an hour and a half, which is great. So that was a good benefit to it. Obviously, if you're horny as shit for Jennifer Connelly, which, why wouldn't you be? Yeah, perfect film. Go watch it. And the most iconic scene about it when she's on the rocking horse thingy is also the funniest scene because the guy tries to get on the horse and falls off because it's slippery. I love that. That was great. It was the only part of the film that I actually thought was genuinely hilarious. The rest of it, I didn't care much for. I didn't like the main character that much. I didn't like the fact that he doesn't even have a character arc. It's just, I've been told by everyone that I need to stop being a liar and actually change myself. Oh, look, gorgeous girl who I can run away with to California with. Oh, let's just do that instead. It's like, fuck off. John Hughes, you stupid idiot. Anyway, I mean, look at what he did to Molly Ringwald. So, anyway, I'm talking about, obviously, in the film, her character making her from goth to pretty girl. I don't like that style either. Goth girl for the win. It's not even really goth, but, still alternative, I guess, if you will. I haven't watched any other films since then. Maybe I will watch one tonight, so I'll have to add in an extra clip. But I did do a binge. Actually, I will note for career opportunities. I watched the 2 featurettes that they had. One was with the director of photography, who's actually Australian, so that was really interesting. But I loved the interview with the 2 brothers who were in the film. They were the 2 villains. That, if you get the set, I would highly recommend watching it. I mean, you can watch both of them. They're only like 15 or 20 minutes each, which is pretty good. But the interview of the 2 brothers is great. There's a great post-credit scene. Weird that I'm saying that, and it's a featurette, but I would definitely suggest watching it. It's very interesting and very informative, and very funny. So yeah, I've added a few more episodes of Futurama to my watched list because I realized when I was editing the other half of this video, because I have edited what you've already seen. Ha 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 ha. That's weird, isn't it? There was an extra episode that was like a Western Bitcoin episode of Futurama. I didn't care for it. But this latest one was the one that came out, this past week, was a Christmas one. And I was wondering when that was going to come out because obviously Coolio had passed away and they said that he had recorded lines for an episode of Futurama. And I'm like, oh, that'll be interesting. He's probably going to be in a Christmas episode. And of course, it's a holiday episode. But yeah, it's a notoriously Christmas-based because, come on, it's always Evil Santa. So yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty funny episode. Some great one-liners. Like, they're combining Bender and Zoidberg, the best 2 characters, together, and like that was great. And it's also a time travel episode, and as a Christmas Evil Santa episode. There's like so much going on, but it works so well together. I loved it. It was great. And I did a whole binge of the latest season of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I actually really liked the season. I can't say I'm a huge fan of the show, but I have watched every single season of it because I binged it a few years ago. I've got the first 6 seasons on DVD, which doesn't include this Christmas special, does it? I don't think it does. No, because it was released, the DVD set was released before the Christmas special, which is like one of the best episodes of the show. So I had to watch that on Amazon Prime when I initially watched through the whole entire show. I got to an episode where they were flashed back into that Christmas special. I'm like, wait, what? I haven't seen this episode. What's going on? So I found the episode and watched it. That was a few years back. Either way, didn't really care for the COVID season. Half of it was fine. Didn't care much for the Irish half. But this latest season, I thought it was very funny. Some solid episodes in it. And it was great because I was still doing the shelf whilst watching it. I'm like, you can do that. It's great. I think it was just the last episode. I just sat down and just enjoyed the whole thing. So anyway, did I watch anything else? I don't know. Probably either way. As a bonus, I watched The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, which I gave 4.5 stars. I thought actually it was really, really tense, really nice. I watched my dad's DVD copy, which actually didn't look too bad. And for once, I watched a black and white film and I didn't feel sleepy. I think because the lack of colours usually makes me feel a bit tired on the odd occasion. Especially that happened when I watched the Wages of Fear right after watching RoboCop. So, but yeah, terrific film. I'd highly recommend it. And that's it for the month. I'm still fixing the shelf. Actually, I've basically fixed this shelf. I just got to do stuff over there. I don't know. We're still working things out. See you next time or in a couple seconds. Bye bye.